Good morning, it's Anna, Lovely with Lard at Sobremesa Farm in our kitchen. And today it's cold, it's nasty this morning, and I thought, you know what a better way, I've got the kids off to school, than to come home and we are actually I'm going to show you how to render lard today from one of our pigs. In the background here, I'm also working on canning and processing some of our bone broth. We processed a whole steer last Friday, and so we saved all the bones and we made our own bone broth. And so I'm in the mood. I'm in the mood to get all this stuff done. It's cold. There's nothing I can do outside really besides feed the animals. And so this morning I'm going to take a little bit of time to get this started. It doesn't take much. This is actually some lard that we had saved back from a pig that we processed earlier this year. This is some Magna Lisa lard, Magna Lisa fat, and I'm going to be rendering it down, making it into lard. So I'm going to go from this to this. And it's going to take a while. It's a slow process, but it's well worth it. This is my last jar. This is another reason that I'm like, oh boy, I better get some lard in my freezer, because this is my last jar. We use it for a lot of things. Now, some of you might recognize this, and some of you might be using this vegetable shortening in your kitchen as well. And you know what? Everybody does, and it's okay. Unfortunately, lard over the years has gotten a really bad rap, and in our family, we would rather use lard than vegetable shortening, and there's some reasons why. One, I love the flavor of lard. I love the way it smells. I love the flavor. Second, I know where this lard came from. My hands were on it. I'm the one that processed it. I know where the pig came from because we grew it. I know where the fat, the nutrients that the pig took in and that nourished its fat. So I know where all of that came from. So, and then the third thing is that, golly, Magna Lisa lard, which is an old heritage breed pig, is so good for you. It's high in omega-3 and high in omega-6 fatty acid. It's also high in monosaturated fat, which helps lower your LDL, and it also helps raise your HDL cholesterol, which is the good cholesterol for you. So, in my opinion, I would much rather have my family consume lard over the processed vegetable shortening. So really quick, what we're gonna do is I just cubed. Some people do it a little bit different. I sometimes do it on the stove top, sometimes I do it in the oven, but today we're just gonna do it in the crock pot because I have a bunch of beef fat that I need to render down into tallow too. I don't know if you can hear my little puppy barking at me. I threw them all outside because they were going crazy. So here is my chopped up pork fat that I'm going to be putting in my crock pot. Into this crock pot with it, I put a 1/4 cup of water, and the water will evaporate off. It just helps prevent the fat in the lard from burning. And what will happen is, in these little nuggets of fat, the lard will render out, and there'll be liquid that will be coming into the bottom of this crock pot, and these little morsels that will float to the top, and those are called the cracklings. And the cracklings, a lot of people like to use in their cooking as well. And so once the cracklings have started to raise to the top and get a little brown, that's when we know that the lard is ready to go. Now, a lot of times what I like to do is I like to take room temperature lard, especially Magna Lisa lard, and we add salt, pepper, red crushed pepper flakes, and fresh rosemary to that, and I whip it for a really long time with my KitchenAid mixer, and it becomes this amazing whipped yummy lard that you spread on homemade bread. Oh, it's amazing. I mean, once you have that, it's really hard to go to something like this. Once you start cooking with this, it's really hard to cook with this when you know where this came from and you're not sure whose hands touched this. So, I'm going to be putting this on low, and we will check back in a little bit and see how it's going. Oh, and before I forget to say, when it's on low, you put the lid on and you just stir it occasionally. You stir it about every hour just to kind of keep it going. So, we'll check back. All right, so here we are. And we're gonna go ahead and look inside our crock pot, and our lard is about ready to strain. See how those guys have floated to the top? They're getting rid, floating, and all the yummy lard has kind of gone to the bottom. So we are going to get ready to strain it here in just a second. All right, so here we are 9 hours later, and I am ready to strain the yummies off of my rendered fat. And if you can see, it's dark outside. I'm in a different shirt because I have had worked out today, lots of things going on. We already ate our dinner, and now I'm gonna do this really quick. And what I have here is I have a nice sieve, and I have some cheesecloth that I put on there just to kind of strain out any little bits and pieces. And then we're gonna go into this bowl. And from here, I'm gonna go ahead and we'll ladle into wide mouth mason jars because it's easier to get the fat out of those wide mouth mason jars. And you wanna leave quite a bit of room at the top because we do put it in the freezer and it will expand in the freezer. So here I go. I'm gonna go ahead and dump this in here. You can kind of see the fat coming off of it. Now I will tell you, this probably could have gone a little bit longer. The pieces that are left are still pretty soft. Now when I do it in the oven, those pieces get nice and crispy and crunchy. And so now this is just going to drain down into my bowl. All that yummy fat is going to drain down into the bowl. Now that all of the rendered lard has drained out through the sieve and the cheesecloth, we're going to go ahead and put it into our mason jars to allow it to cool before we put it in the freezer. So let's go ahead. We're gonna go ahead. I have a canning funnel here that it kind of helps maintain everything into the jar, the mason jar. And like I said, I use wide mouth jars just because the wide mouth jar is just a lot easier to get the lard out. And I like to leave a little bit of space at the top just because, like I said, the lard will expand just a little bit. And if you can see, I'm gonna put this up a little bit closer. Look how beautiful that is. And when it gets hard, it's beautiful white. I had showed you guys earlier in the film, and we can use this in any kind of cooking. Instead of Crisco, we can use it in pie baking, biscuits, frying, whipped lard to put on fresh bread, any of that. Remember, I know where this came from. The other product, I don't know. So, there you have it, folks. Rendered lard. Super simple. It just takes a little bit of time, but it's so easy. And if it's something that you want to do and you don't raise pigs, you can go to your local butcher shop and you can ask them for the leaf lard, the fat that's around the kidneys, and say, hey, can I have the leaf lard of anybody that wants to get rid of their fat and nobody wants to keep it, if somebody doesn't want to keep it, because a lot of people don't want to mess with it. Super easy, so much better for you than the processed vegetable oil. And hopefully you find this video helpful and you go out there and render some lard. From our house to your house, may God bless you and may you have a wonderful day.